Hey everybody, I'm Rick. This is another R-rated review of WandaVision. This time we're looking at episode 4. We interrupt this program. This was not at all what I was expecting for a next episode in this series. I was kind of expecting that we were going to be exclusively looking at things from the point of view of, you know, the inside of Westview, what's going on with Wanda and Vision and all that. But what we got instead was kind of a lot of like backfilled information, a lot of context for what's going on, and it's definitely reshaping a lot of what the show is putting together so far. So right off the bat, so obviously there's gonna be a lot of spoilers for this episode and probably for the series overall just in this. So if you haven't watched the episode yet, I highly recommend it. It's a very good episode. There's a lot happening, and it kind of requires the first 3 episodes as well to make more sense as to what's happening there. But so right away in the cold open, we literally open on the woman we know as Geraldine being unsnapped. So she was snapped, or she was turned to dust when Thanos snapped his fingers at the end of Infinity War, and this is her coming back to the world after the Hulk snaps everyone back into existence during Avengers Endgame. We find out very shortly after that the woman we know as Geraldine is actually a grown-up Monica Rambeau, the daughter of Maria Rambeau, who is Captain Marvel's friend in her movie, Captain Marvel. And coming back from the snap is fucking terrifying, both in the sense that their bodies are being reconstituted from out of nothing, which is really bizarre. And also, just people, it's not like in an instant everyone is back. It like takes a minute. Like there's a lot of people that are coming back. She's running through the hallways, at some points literally bumping into people who weren't there when she turned her head and turns back, and now she's like knocking people over. Like that's how fast people are just coming back left and right. We find out during this as well that her mom, Maria Rambeau, actually died. When the snap happened, Maria was in the hospital for some kind of cancer. I don't think they actually specified what the cancer was specifically. Yeah, I don't think they specify what kind of cancer it was, but she was going into remission. Is remission good or bad? Oh God, she was getting better. And then Monica vanished, but Maria didn't. And about 3 years after the snap, so in 2021, ironically, I think, yeah, 2021, it came back and Maria died of her cancer. And then here in 2023, Monica and billions of other people all start coming back all at once. So that was kind of a wild ride there. So now we know who Geraldine is. We know why she's kind of taken a bit of a focus. It's Monica Rambeau. And Sword. Sword exists and is a big thing. I called that, though I totally misremembered what the deal with Sword was originally, because I thought it was like a villainous organization. And it's kind of played up as one to start, but that's going to get some more context as we continue on through this episode alone. The Sentient Weapon Observation Response Division, which sounds really accordsy. It appears to be kind of a superhero monitoring, you know, organization, or not superhero monitoring organization, but just general monitoring of stuff. Very S.H.I.E.L.D. like. It was founded by Maria Rambeau, so it was founded in the 90s, whereas S.H.I.E.L.D. was kind of sprung out from something. It was sprung out from, what was it, the OSS? Was it the OSS? I don't know, but World War II era. So 50 years later, Sword comes around. Monica was already working here when the snap happened, but obviously her ID and stuff have stopped working and all of that. So we get some cute sort of things there. I guess Monica was supposed to be next in line, essentially, to be the director of Sword, but she wasn't there, so the next person in line was this guy, Hayward. Tyler Hayward becomes the acting director, which is interesting. He's acting director, but has presumably been in the role for 2 years. I have to wonder if the acting director portion of it, as well as, like, so I had mentioned in the last episode, like, maybe Sword is kind of an American not political, but American like investigatory kind of organization. And with Maria Rambeau being a member of the U.S. Armed Forces, having, this guy be the new acting director, even if it was on the scope of years, would be something that could happen if it were like an American military or investigatory branch. So they haven't really confirmed any of that, but it seems like there's a decent chance. And also, S.W.O.R.D. interacts with the FBI, as we see when we get Jimmy Woo re-entering the MCU after not a ton of time away. He was in Ant-Man and the Wasp, so he was actually one of the more recent actors to be seen, in the MCU anyway. But he is back. He learned a little sleight of hand magic. He does a little and like has his card appear to give to Monica, which was pretty great. I guess he was into that after he saw Scott doing some magic tricks with his playing cards. So basically, he has a witness, a witness protection program witness that is in Westview, but he seems to have disappeared, and he can't be contacted. And when Jimmy tries to contact known associates, nobody seems to remember that the guy exists at all. So Jimmy's very confused about that. He can't contact anyone inside the town, and the sheriff is keeping him and now Monica out of town. And his response when they ask about Westview is that there is no Westview. And they say, like, well, where are you from then? And he says, Eastview. So, like, something is up. Something very weird is going on with that. There seems to be this, like, amnesia field deal going on. And as they experiment with some more with what's happening there, they send in a little drone helicopter, like a very modern looking thing, and it goes and there's like this kind of force field barrier, and it passes through and then vanishes. So something is up, and you see that and you're like, okay, maybe that's connected to the like red toy helicopter that was seen in episode 2, where the one that was in color and all of that. So that's kind of an interesting thing that's going on there. Monica winds up kind of exploring on the force field. She's kind of like touching it, and like she like pulls back, and like there's little glitchy sort of things, and it has the same kind of CRT TV like color bar pixel effect to it. It's very interesting. Like it looks like a TV broadcast kind of tube TV signal sort of deal. Like there's a lot of weird visual effects that are there, and I like it. She plays around with it, and eventually she gets sucked in. And now Jimmy Woo's like, okay, now what? So the FBI and S.W.O.R.D. are further, communicating on this stuff, and they bring in a bunch of science experts. And one of those experts happens to be Darcy Lewis from the Thor movies, who is now a doctor of astrophysics. Gets brought in with a bunch of experts to figure out what's going on. She does a spectral analysis of like the signal that's coming out of there, and finds that there's actually 2 different signals. There's kind of general cosmic what was the name of it? CMBR, cosmic magnetic background radiation. I think I might have the M wrong. Cosmic microwave background radiation, which is just a common thing that happens. There's just a radiation in the world and in the universe. It's like the result of the Big Bang, and there's always like a very, very trace amount of it going on, but in the town there's a lot of it happening. And above that, though, there's another signal that Darcy can't quite figure out, and she realizes, like, gets an old TV and is able to actually tune the TV and get a signal, and she is now watching the first episode of WandaVision. So now we're like getting this weird, so this is all before or now concurrent with the first episode of the season of the series, and now there's kind of this weird like parallel motion going on. And actually you even see, as the first episode comes to an end of WandaVision, you see Darcy sitting there going like, oh, it's so cute, and writes down some stuff in a notebook and closes it, and it's got the S.W.O.R.D. logo. So our mysterious person that's been watching WandaVision from the first episode is actually Darcy. So that's okay. All right, we're starting to fill some gaps in there. Literally, I think he uses the exact same shot, too. What's weird is there seem to be reruns, because we come like later in the episode, we see an earlier spot in episode 1 again. So it's kind of, oh, actually, no, I take that back. She's recording these. I forgot about this. She's recording these as they air, and they're like looking over the tape. So not reruns. But so there's like a hexagonal, they refer to a hexagonal shape. And like, as the episode closes, there's kind of a like hexagonal thing that closes in on everything. I might've commented on it in the first video, which is double interesting because the Agent Franklin goes in a hazmat suit. And as he crosses the barrier, it becomes a beekeeper suit. And he comes out of the sewer because he's trying to infiltrate the town, figure out what's going on, and rescue Monica, if nothing else. Comes out, he's standing there as a beekeeper, and she says no and like reverses everything. And I don't think it actually showed us what happened to him. But in the TV, it just kind of has these abrupt jump cuts. Anytime something weird happens, rather than seeing the VCR effect or seeing all these other effects, it just kind of like skips ahead in the broadcast. There's like a blocked out part where Darcy actually says like, I think she's censoring the broadcast. So when weird things are happening that interrupt the like kayfabe of the show, she makes it not broadcast the signal. But so now there's the question of, all right, who are these other characters that are in this show and a show? And they start realizing that all these other characters that exist in Westview are just that. They're characters. They're not actual people. They are people playing people. So, for example, is that I have it down here, Todd and Sharon Davis play Mr. and Mrs. Hart. There's a lot of Davises in the MCU. I think there's also Aaron Davis, and there's another Davis from Iron Man 3. But there's just a ton of Davises for some reason. There's also apparently things that are going on that we don't see in the episodes. Because, like, so Norm, so Cheers, so a little maybe reference there. Norm is the first friend that Vision makes in his office in the first episode. And so it's a guy named Abalash. I think that's what his name was. Abalash Tandon. And there's a mention of Vision awakening him, at which point he, like, these are all, so they've got a bunch of profiles they're making. I, like, paused to read some of these things. And he expressed concern for his father and sister, I think, and then he released him, and then he went right back to his character. But I don't think we actually saw that in episode 1. So there's some things going on that we're not seeing, and Vision seems to be trying to break out of this simulation, which is double weird, because Vision's dead. We're going to come back around to that, too. Interesting other thing to note, and I'm not sure if this is going to play into it or not, because there's like a weird thing that it might accidentally be referring to, but it's contradictory. A bunch of these profiles have ages listed, and then they have their driver's licenses, and it's a little tough to see, but it seems like, based off of what the age and then date of birth listed are, it seems like all of the actor people who are, like the people who are stuck in the show, were all people who got snapped, because it seems like anyone who has an age and a date of birth, their age is off by 5 years. So that's kind of interesting. However, all of these characters had their driver's licenses had like a renewal date in the 5 years between the two snaps. So like, it's like a weird production thing, but at first I was like, ooh, maybe that's a clue. Maybe these are all snapped people who are pulled into this thing. But then there's that one little piece that doesn't really make sense. And I was like, okay, I don't know if that actually matters, or if it was like a production error, or if it's too hard to see these dates and they actually do line up. I don't know. But it was an interesting thing to think about. They have speaking of like weird production stuff, they have a weird moment where they look at Phil. The character's name is Phil, and he plays Dottie's husband. I forget what the actor's name is, but so when they bring up someone's profile as they're figuring them out, it shows the actor's name. It says name, blah, alias, blah. And for him, it was like Harold Proctor, I think. So it said name, Harold Proctor, and instead of saying alias Phil something, it said alias Sit Met, which are two words that show up very early into Lorem Ipsum text, which is just an auto-generated garbage faux Latin. Like, it's there as filler text when you need to test something out. So someone left that in. So oops. That's a thing. Yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Sit Amet is just kind of left in there. I'm sure that's not how it's pronounced in Latin, but it's fake Latin anyway. We also get to see that Darcy figures out, okay, we need to find a way to communicate into there, and she figures out that if she matches the broadcast signal, they can send a signal. Oh my god, every time I pass over my face, I'm so overexposed right now. The camera's like adjusting itself. Sorry, I'll try not to do that too much. So they decide, all right, we can send a signal back and it'll accept it and it'll break through. So she has Jimmy with a walkie-talkie and is able to, they're watching at this point. Episode 2 is occurring. And in the scene where Wanda and Dottie are talking at the like swim club, there's the radio. So they break through, and that's where Jimmy's got his like, can you hear me? Wanda, who's doing this to you? Wanda, answer me. So now we have that mystery solved as well. So we're seeing a lot of like connection points to what's going on outside. It's also very interesting that this all seems to have happened. Like these episodes seem to be happening almost back to back in real, like in practically real time. Just based on the passage of time outside. So there's a lot of like weird stuff going on there too. There's actually an extra scene that we see that didn't happen in the show, which is a shot of, it looks like Wanda and Agnes shopping, and then you see Geraldine in like the foreground as an extra, just reading a newspaper and just sitting there. That didn't happen in episode 1. So like we've just got this kind of extra scene that's in there. So there's also, that means other things that are going on that we don't even see as part of the show, as the show in a show. It's so hard to like make sense of all this like verbally, but episode 3 begins. Wanda has Tommy. They jump to Billy. And then when Geraldine says Pietro, he was killed by Ultron, right? For one, Jimmy and Darcy are both like, whoa, that's the first time anyone in the show has referenced the outside world. And Wanda says, like, what did you say? And she says, and then it just jumps forward to the credits. Like, it just jumps ahead. We don't see any of the scene that comes after that. And that's where they decide, wait, someone is censoring our broadcast, censoring the broadcast. And then we get to see what we missed in episode 3. There's a gap in time where Wanda confronts Geraldine, since that's the character's name, and Vision's outside, comes inside, and Geraldine is gone. This time we get to see what it is. Wanda says, like, you're not my neighbor, you're not my friend, and you're not welcome here, and like throws her through wall, out of town, launches out, and then there's this giant hole in the wall, which Wanda then closes up. But also the side of the wall that she gets thrown through is, so in the standard set, I have no idea, I might be shrinking down the camera, but in the standard set, the front door is on this side. The wall she gets thrown through is also on this side. So she gets thrown through the front door, presumably like past Vision and Agnes and Herb, and just kind of unhappens that event or something. But I guess there's also a fence there, so maybe I'm like mixing up which walls are actually where, or maybe they messed that up themselves. I don't know. But so she kind of closes it all up again and just kind of goes back to what she's doing before. It's just kind of, so she's way more in control than it seemed like she was before. When Vision comes in, she turns and she sees dead Vision. Gray, blank eyes, literally a cavernous hole in his head from where Thanos pulled out the Mind Stone. And she's just kind of like, and eventually he turns back and says, you know, we can go wherever we want. She says, no, we can't. This is our home. I have everything under control. And that's kind of where we're at here, where Wanda seems to be shaping up to become the villain of the show. And when Monica is kind of, you know, grabbed by all the FBI and sword people on the outside, she says, Wanda, it's like, I don't have the quote here, but she basically says, like, it's Wanda. She's controlling the whole town. And even Vision seems to be slightly put off by what's going on, which is very weird because he must be only there because she's animating something to be a fake Vision or something. But like, It's very weird. We have this whole show is in a completely different direction now. And I did have one thought. So there was a mention at one point early on that WandaVision and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness were going to be connected in some way. There was going to be some connection between them. And I have to wonder, two big things, but they're related. So if Wanda's going crazy and her powers are now like, she's now taking over towns and like mind controlling entire populations of people, there's only a few people with the ability to suppress that and actually do something about it. And the most obvious one who could come in and handle this would be Doctor Strange. Some kind of magical ability, sorcery thing to be able to confront her. Like, he probably is not as powerful as Wanda. I think generally, like, power-wise, Wanda's arguably, like, outside of maybe Captain Marvel, the most powerful character in the MCU right now. Whereas Doctor Strange has more like tricks and things he can do to like outwit somebody. She is just more powerful and strong. I have to wonder if they're going to try to bring him in and if he is still going to fail. I kind of hope that they bring him in and he gets dunked on and loses, for two reasons. One, is the Multiverse of Madness in the movie Doctor Strange the Multiverse of Madness, is that multiverse Wanda? Is it a creation of Wanda, and could she possibly be the villain of that movie? That this is like setting up sort of an unwitting villainous turn of some kind. And also, I was sitting here going like, man, we got the Facts of Life and all that. I'm trying to figure out like what good 80s shows would be. But what if it's not an actual 80s show? What if it's a show that is an homage to the 80s, specifically 80s science fiction and things? What if the 80s episode, if there is one, is actually a take on Stranger Things, in which case we've got Doctor Strange in a Stranger Things, inspired episode? I think they could do some interesting stuff with that. I don't know. But that just kind of occurred to me as like, oh, Doctor Stranger Things, kind of a hashtag Doctor Stranger Things. Let's make that happen, Marvel. But yeah, so that's kind of where the episode's at. I really like the twist that like of what's going on. I kind of had a suspicion earlier on that like maybe Wanda is actually the one that's in control of all this stuff and everyone else is trapped, and that seems to be what's going on. She's trapped an entire town, and it's still not clear why. It seems like it's a grief thing still. Like for her, it's literally been 3 weeks, maybe less. There's a 3-week gap between when the second snap happens and when Monica goes back to work at Sword and when she goes to Westview. So it's about 3 weeks between. For Wanda, it's been 3 weeks since Vision died. Vision died. She gets turned to dust less than a minute later, comes back, fights Thanos. They win. 3 weeks later, now she's probably grieving a lot over the loss of Vision, and she was probably more like in shock still during the scene at the end of Endgame where she had with Hawkeye. But yeah, this is shaping it. So now it's a question. There's a lot of still questions like, is that the real reason that this is going on? How can Wanda be stopped? What is Vision right now? Because there's a new teaser trailer out that kind of teases the remainder of the season now that the twist of Wanda's like control over the town has been revealed. And one of the shots is Vision up against the big static wall without any costume things. It's just like Vision as he is up against the wall. And it's a question of like, what happens if he gets out of the wall? Can he survive? Will he be destroyed? Is it just going to be still just the corpse of Vision? Like he is a synthezoid, as the show has called him. So does he decay? Is it a dead robot that she's literally just animating in place? So there's a lot of real questions here. I hope Doctor Strange gets involved in there. I think it'd be a real cool cameo. And I think it'd be a really cool way to connect that with the Multiverse of Madness. Multiverse of Madness could also be a result of Wanda, A, creating even more realities just in general, or B, inflicting her powers on Doctor Strange and unleashing his worst fears. So there's a lot going on there. I'm really excited about it. Yeah. So we'll see you guys on Friday for episode 5. I think it's going to be a very different show now that we know what the deal with Wanda is. And yeah, leave your comments below. What do you think of the episode? It seems to have been a very popular episode. The cold open in particular, where everybody is coming back into existence in the hospital, was kind of a big deal. Yeah, so let me know what you think below. Let me know what you think is going to happen for the rest of the season. I have some ideas that I just talked about, but who knows? There's a lot of room for other things to go on. We'll have to find out on Friday when episode 5 comes out. I'm looking forward to it and the rest of the season. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.